Hello and welcome to the Spider-Man Omen Paths Limited 17 Lands data review. If you haven't been here before, I'm basically just going to look at everything available on the 17 Lands site. I've been doing these earlier and earlier into formats because there's just been more data available. Specifically with this format because there's only really 5 like archetypes. It's actually easier to have data, and there's also just fewer like cards than usual. So each card is going to have more numbers of games played early, so we can sort of start looking into their performance. Now I always like to start over in the deck color data space here, and as you can see, there is only really 5 decks supported in this format. Um, those 5 being Selesnya, Gruul, Rakdos, Dimir, and Azorius. So those decks are supported, and you can kind of see right off the bat there are three decks that are performing better, and 2 decks that are performing worse. Selesnya is your best, and then Dimir and Azorius are sort of tied as your second best, and then you have Gruul, and then Rakdos bringing up the rear. If we do switch over to top players, I actually don't know if it exists yet. It doesn't exist for this format for some reason. I don't know what the deal with that is, but there's just not data for it in this particular instance. One of the interesting things to notice here is there's a lot of like 2-color plus splash decks, specifically Selesnya plus splash. I think this might have to do with like the hybrid cards because sometimes the hybrid cards get counted as splashes. So the Selesnya with a splash actually has the same win rate with the Selesnya as the Selesnya without a splash, which is very rare. You actually almost never see that. A splash deck has a similar win rate to a deck without a splash because the mana base does matter. But yeah, so playing a third color even a little bit actually is totally fine and advisable in blue and green white. And it also seems that that's the case with blue black. You're taking more of a hit, but this is less than a typical hit. Rakdos surprisingly, Rakdos gets better when you splash with it, which I assume just means that you're playing fewer red cards. I suppose that's what's going on there. In terms of full 3 color, not really anything, and we're kind of back down to normal down here. Not a ton to talk about with that. I think there's a little bit of monocolor stuff. It's not the easiest thing to do. These sample sizes are too small to really talk about. But yeah, Rakdos is clearly your worst deck, and I think Selesnya is clearly the best, but not so far ahead of everything else that it's like clear. But it is when you're winning 59% of your games, even with the splash, and you're getting drafted more than 2 times any other deck. I mean, this is really sort of telling here. That Selesnya plus its counterpart is more than 2 times everything else, and it's still winning 59% of the time. That does mean that the format is a little bit unbalanced color wise. And we will see that with more data coming up. But now back into the card data, and we're always going to start with the commons. With Spectacular Tactics is where I just kind of want a card that I want to highlight. One of the best, I mean, it's probably the best version of this type of effect we've ever had. We've had the 2 mana white sort of modal removal spell plus other effect combo in the past, and this is the best one we've ever had. Both of the effects are very strong. The fact that you get a +1/+1 counter is actually doing a lot of work here, compared to just getting +1/+1 until end of turn, which is sort of more what you would have expected. And interesting, the second best common is also a white removal spell, and it's Mothwing Strut. So white removal really is sort of driving the boat here. I actually am curious, do we have top user data? Yeah, so top user data just doesn't exist for Omen Paths for some reason. I don't know what the deal with that is, but we're living in the land of the masses for this format. And that's okay. There's always a lot that the masses can tell us about the world around us. Um, so these are counted as multicolor cards, even though this is a red and a green card, so it's kind of weird. But yes, Leyline Weaver is quite good. But general trends at the top here: a lot of white, a lot of green, some blue and black. You will notice that there are no red commons other than Leyline Weaver, which is really more of a green common, but you again technically is red. But other than Leyline Weaver, there's really no red commons just anywhere. And this is quite telling. This to me says that red is um, the first mono red common is Death Flame Burst. Am I actually reading that right? I'm actually gonna go look. Let's take a look really quickly. Yeah, Death Flame Burst is the first mono red common. This is the worst a color has been performing individually at common in an extremely long time. It's possible that it's performing worse than blue in HBG, which is the last time they did something like this. Let me just see. This is yeah the other arena versions. Yeah, even in HBG. So let's actually go back to AFR because that's a better indicator. Even in AFR, 56.5 was your highest win rate blue common in AFR. A set with where blue was maybe the worst a color has ever been in the history of limited. Um, and probably not true. I'm sure there was like a set in 2003 where like green was just completely unplayable. But like in modern limited, AFR is kind of your benchmark for unplayable colors, especially at common, just how weak these commons were and how like useless they were. I'm curious about uncommons. Like, and then part of the problem too is there were no uncommons to help blue out, like actual nothing that made it any better. And if we go and now if we head back to own paths for red, okay, wait, chill. This is cool. This is cool. What did I just do? No, I broke the website. Give me a second. I already fixed it. There we go. So, yeah. So here it is. There are a couple of red uncommons that are helping out considerably to make it more like blue. So I would say we're in a similar range. Lavaborn Goblins is better than any blue common was in AFR, but aside from this one card, pretty much everything else in red sucks. Like is not good. So, um I don't really have a lot to say about red in terms of like being a functional deck. I do think there is a like a deck in red that I've drafted a couple of successful-ish red decks, but I don't think that they're super sustainable. Well, let's move to the best color, which is white, and we'll talk about the commons because white's commons are truly the best by a wide margin. We talked about the two removal spells already. City Pigeon, another good support card, and Principled Referee, just a nice solid card that just sort of works in every deck. Um, there are these two which aren't very good, but everything else is pretty much playable. This is a solid 2-drop. This is a good in web card, and Lively Loop is a fine trick. So it's all sort of in your. This is exactly what you want, right? Like when you're. This is what a win rate spread of the best common color in a format looks like. It's just this is exactly it. There's really um, the only thing out of the ordinary is how high above 61%, like above 60% spectacular tactics is. This is truly exceptional. This is the type of win rate we've only ever seen in uh, what's it, preening champion, Oregon hoarder. Like this is rare air. Like 61% is inspiring overseer level of win rate. It will unlikely be sustained. It doesn't usually sustain over the course of a format, and people do kind of recognize that it's good. It's also now 256, which will continue to drop. On to blue, and blue has some solid commons. Phantasmal Vision is a good 2-drop. When blue has a good 2-drop common, the color tends to be pretty good. Usually, that is going to be the case here. I mean, this is maybe the best common 2-drop we've seen since Bait-Hook Angler. And I'm a big Bait-Hook Angler guy. Bait-Hook Angler is like one of my favorite cards of all time, and Phantasmal Vision is sort of it's in the mix there. It's quite good. The counterspell, I'm surprised to see the counterspell doing this well. I haven't really seen it in play at all. Terrible in the opener, so that is also, you do have to take this number with a grain of salt. The vision, on the other hand, is perfect in both scenarios. Unstable Experiment is solid. Snatchback. Now, this is quite the end of performance. For the consensus best common in the format, myself included, going into the format, I would probably have picked this as the best common or one of the top 5 commons, and it's very average. I couldn't tell you what the reasons specifically for this are, but it just doesn't feel like it really does anything. The games aren't really about this. I think they're even like maybe too fast for it. I mean Ozor. I think Ozor is the nuts. Ozor, in my opinion, is crazy good. I've really liked Ozor. But that could just be my experience. Shout out Ponder, by the way, on the bonus sheet. On to black, very similar blue spread wise. Your best card is Damning Caress, Scorpion Sting, 2 removal spells. Very, very close game and hand win rate. And opening hand win rate. You have Scorpion Sting on top, so it's similar. This is a card that you really only want to play if you have villains, but most villains are black. Merciless Enforcers. Solid 2. And this is a solid 3 here. And it's really just kind of a bunch of like tools you can use if you really need them. These 2 cards are quite poor at the bottom here, but the rest of these you can kind of just play and it'll be fine. I don't have a ton. We already went over red, so let's talk about green. Green is probably the consensus second best color at common. Favored Fighter and Zon are sort of great. You have the Grow Extra Arms if you're doing spider stuff. Perilous Lunge, which is a fine removal spell, but nothing exciting. This 6/6 is sort of okay. I don't really think the Lizards is real. I haven't really seen any evidence that Lurking Lizards is a real card that does anything. This was expected. I think people largely didn't fall into the trap pre-format of thinking this would be Sahagan again. I think most of us, you know, sort of said, no, this is probably going to be back to reality for these type of cards, and yes, it is. We are back in reality. I've seen a lot of Eccentric Archaeologists, and it has been terrible every time I've seen it, so this win rate makes sense to me. It just has looked horrible. I would strongly advise not playing this card, especially when you have the red-green one that we will see in a moment. And especially when you have Leyline Weaver. Like, Leyline Weaver is just that card, but way better. So I just don't know why you would need that effect. Gallant Citizen also quite good. Again, just sort of your 2-mana draw spell. Wonder Weave Aerialist is also very, very strong. This is the one, like, you'll play Leyline Weaver in any red or green deck. It's just that good. Gallant Citizen you can play in any green or white deck, but you really do want to be green-white. Wonder Weave Aerialist, I would almost mandate that you be blue-white. Like, I don't really think you can play this outside of blue-white. I think that in, like, maybe green-white, if you were heavy-white, could play it, but blue-black doesn't want it. Mob Lookout, I like Mob Lookout. I've actually played a decent amount of Mob Lookout. Knife Trick is sort of mid, but this is just ridiculous, right? This is the problem, right? I think the win rate is quite poor, but I mean this is just getting taken, second highest among any of these. That's why we're here, right? That is why we're here. In terms of win rate. All right, let's take a look at the uncommons. We have a bunch of blue, white, green, black cards at the top. With Genai and Hoppy is sort of your best uncommon and signpost. It's 61. It's actually, solid but pretty normal. Oh boy, we're going deep into the data there. We didn't need to do that, but you can do that if you would like. And so yeah, so the 2 out of 3 best are the white-green ones, not a surprise. Then you have the blue-white ones, not a surprise, and then black. And you sort of have another white-green card here. Surprised to see Rhinos Rampage up this high on the list, but actually when you look at the win rate, this is a pretty severe cliff. And it is indicative of how the format actually is. The format is very tiered, as we saw with the win rates, right? It's your 3 decks that are good and your 2 decks that are bad. And that's just kind of the long and the short of it. Your red-based decks are pretty horrible, and all the cards are bad. I mean, also this is here. Are people... I beg people. I beg you. I beg people to stop thinking that this type of card is good. I beg them. They won't ever do it. Like, people... Every format, people are like, this type of card is like... They love this thing. and it sucks every time. And I don't know how to get through to people that understated creatures that need to attack and can't ever block are just not good. They're just not good. Um, so it is a sad sight to see it down here. It's honestly it's sad to see these continue to get printed because they just I mean I guess the reason they get printed is because people like them. I don't I don't know. I don't buy it. Yeah, this has been my experience. I mean, look at this. I mean, I saw Terminate, by the way. This card's good, but these cards are not good, and they are. I mean, this is I think maybe the worst a color has ever been. Like signpost wise. Like I don't think we've ever seen two signposts. Oh no, that's probably not true. The baseball bat and the other one from Duskmorn and Green White were close to this bad together. I think they might have been worse even. But this is we're down there. We're down at the bottom of it. In the two signpost era, having both signposts be at a 50%. I mean that's a death sentence. That's just a complete death sentence. And so that is why we are here. All right, on to the oh man, I've really broken everything. Green uncommons, terrific team up, a great removal spell, and sort of Selesnya Archivist. Notes with Selesnya Archivist, it has like weird things that can happen with it where you have to target things. Like be advised about it. Then there's some spider stuff. One of the things I'd like to amend from my set review is thinking that there just weren't going to be that many spiders. There's tons of spiders. I looked up like spider in the Scryfall database to see like where the spiders were. I didn't see that many, but I think part of the problem was it didn't register in my head like how much the set being smaller would change that. And also there was just so many things that make tokens that I was like, oh, those don't really like there's not that many tokens, but no, there's actually like a decent amount. So there's spiders specifically a green uncommon. You can sort of see these three spider payoffs are all quite good. And ancestral carvings kind of a win for me. Even though I haven't actually put the card in my deck yet, oh, pretty good. Looks pretty good to me. I don't know. I feel like that's a win. We'll see. We'll see when we go back through the set review. Got a beast within. That card's horrible. Yeah, there's not ever going to be data on the bonus sheet cards. It looks like they're just not going to get enough play. So, we talked about the red uncommons. Again, I'll just go through them really quickly. These are the cards that will make you play red. Basically, you shouldn't be playing red unless you have a Lavaborn goblins in your deck. This is the only card that is good enough to actually make you play a red deck, I think. Is this sort of what we're looking at this stage. Black, more removal that's good. Anything interesting? Oh, villain stuff. Yeah, so Black's thing is kind of that there is a lot of villain stuff, and you can see here that one of the villain's payoffs under 55%. Black's uncommon is actually quite weak. Only two really above average. But this card I think is actually quite strong if in the right deck, so I wouldn't necessarily say that it's bad, but there is a lot of like there's a lot of like stuff you need to do to make sure that black works. And then again, black is a one deck, right? It's blue black. That's it. You can also play Esper a little bit, but that's kind of it. Blue again at uncommon, quite good. It just always sort of is at this point. And just look at this, very solid top 4 uncommons. That's going to make you a good deck in this format. The other 3 uncommons are basically unplayable, but these 3 are quite good, and they all do different things, right? Vexbots is a great 2-drop. Blue has a great common 2-drop and a great common and a great uncommon 2-drop, which also cares about villain stuff. So I think that puts blue in a really great spot. And you could argue it's the best color maybe, but I do think it is white just because it goes in green white. Interesting to call out Sudden Strike. Usually an effect that is not so good, but because of web slinging, it really does work on attacks. Like your opponent does just have to block your creatures a lot, and so that is something to keep an eye out for. And another card, Costume Closet, very has performed quite well. This is very solid win rate for a card that does nothing, so that's something to keep an eye out for. I mean, that's a card that you should be playing every time. Shadow Reprieve also. And that's it. There is some colorless stuff. I should actually have noted. Let's talk about the colorless commons and uncommons really quickly. See if there's anything interesting. Gororel, as I mentioned before, spiders are a thing. So actually, this card seems like it's a solid card you can put in any deck. A bunch of Surveil lands, which are all good. This land is good. And that's kind of it. The rest of these are not that exciting. Anything, this is just the worst manolith of all time. I have played this card in my deck. I probably just should never play it, but here we are. Okay, so let's move on to the rares and mythics. Just to see if there's anything to talk about. One of the things I do want to talk about is there's sort of a high-ish density, especially given the small size of the set. There's a high density of high win rate cards here, above 62, 63%. That is higher than normal. Luis is the best card in the set by a almost full 2 percentage points. That's pretty savage. This card is the nuts. It's also a villain, so it's easier to recur. And then you just kind of get into the big green cards. This card. So one of the things to note about this rare in particular is that it gives you a reason to play white-black. There are no signposts to support white-black, but you can splash this card and the cards that are like it in the off-color, unsupported pairs. They are a reason to play those pairs, and you can play those decks. It's not like it's not possible. It's just not as likely. Anything to talk about? Let me see. No, nothing really. There's really not all that much interesting here. It's really pretty expected. I mean, a lot of the cards that I thought would be good are good. It is somewhat bomby. Like the set, I would say is on the bombier side. See if there's anything down here that looked terrible. I mean, this is kind of like. I mean, this is shockingly bad, considering that it gives you a treasure and a menace thing. But Giantcraft Helm is a card that I think is fine, but you do sort of have to play to it a bit. Soulstone is this is pretty good for the Soulstone. I mean, this is kind of performing for the Soulstone. Yeah, I don't honestly have a ton to say about this. There's a lot of good rares. You will find yourself playing them frequently. Their splashing is doable in the set with the lands. They're quite good. So far, I feel like there is not a ton to say. I will actually go look and see the format speed really quickly. Can I have pick 2 draft? I can add pick 2 draft. And Omen Paths. Wow. Pretty standard for where they're at these days. Picking the Wilds of Eldraine, Lord of the Rings, part of the graph. I'm sure that'll make some people happy. This is about the sweet spot. I don't really think I think this is about where Wizards is targeting it to be. So no complaints from me there. And that's it. That's all I got. It's a quick video this time because there's not that much to go over. The set is fairly simple. The archetypes that are good are fairly simple, and that's kind of all I got. Seems like I would say that so far my impression of the set is better than I was expecting going in. I was expecting like kind of just not that interesting at all. And there are more than 5 decks. I will say that there are more than 5 decks, and you can draft more than 5 decks. The gameplay does get a bit repetitive given the small card pool, but I actually think for what it is, it's pretty decent. I don't mind it. So that's my early take on Spider-Man. See you.